So last class, we were start discussing on the Python program examples, right? Have you guys tried to log into the learnpython.org, that website that I show you? Anybody try that website? So they start from a very simple example of printing something, and then they cover one by one, like getting the inputs, declare the lists, how do you access value in the list, and those stuff. So we still have time in this week, so you can certainly try on those websites. And you need to do that website in order to complete the assignment 2.1. Okay, 2.1, which I will also go back. So this was a simple example from your textbook. It's just give you format ideas on how to write a Python program. On top of it, we pretty much looked at it. This program was given as a calculating average miles per gallon examples. The input was they try to get the inputs from the users, but whatever inputs that you get it from a user, you can certainly convert into the type that you wanted to work on. So one type was the speed, miles per hour, was they wanted to convert that into a integer. So it's something called casting integer. The value, whatever they enter, is integer. And the value of the distance they asked for, they might have some decimal digits. So they wanted to cast that information as a float. And those stuff that we discussed. And then you take those two values. Depends on the choices of the user. They compare the choices. Choice equal D. I mean, this type of operation is possible in Python, right? So one of the good things about Python was you can use these equal signs as of in comparing the string characters too. Unlike in C, then those equal signs only available for integer comparison, number comparisons only. But Python was so nicely covering all the string operation too. Addition signs were concatenating the strings too. 그죠? 뭐 이런 거 있었죠? This type of operation is also okay in Python too. This is a very strong point in using Python. It's simpler to program. Doesn't matter which type of the variables they are dealing with. Anyway, you can see a big if and else statement, blah blah blah, division by distance by speed, and then print out the value in this way. Also, if you start putting a big loop outside, then you can certainly repeat yourself. Repeat the program in this way. Anyway, it's quite easy examples and easy examples. Like this one, we also take a look. They keep asking, do you wanna compute your average values per hour, average miles per hour again and again? So they keep asking the user inputs of, do you want to do it again or not? If you say no, exit the program. So adding a big loop to cover the entire program that we have wrote. So if you compare this program to previous program, this one, you can see the changes they made. They growing a program this way. So do take a look at all this. The reason that I like Python is probably this one too. There are many libraries that you can use. The set of code. So when I do a programming assignment, I usually don't write myself everything. I usually download certain programs that someone else already wrote it before. I simply use it. So that's a very strong part of this Python. Of course, there are many more libraries in C, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to use. You need to know the structure of someone else's code. But usually Python much simpler. That is something called modules. So in the beginning of a program, they usually say import someone else's code into my code. so I can use them. Why do you prefer to use someone else's code? Easy too. Also, I don't want to do it myself. And sometimes those source code are guaranteed. The performance, what they can do is already guaranteed by many people. Many people have used it before. So there's a less risk of using those stuff. Other problems out there with the open source stuff, but those are one of the common advantages that you can experience. Cool. So it's a simple pseudocode for calculating the size of the circle. How do you calculate the area of this? 이거 어떻게 하지? 어떻게 돼? 이렇게 하면 이 설마 이거 알겠지? 그죠? 뭐, yeah, radius. You need pi somewhere. 그죠? 어떻게 이거 식이 뭐야? 넓이 구하는 식이 뭐예요? 뭐? 진짜 쉬운 거나 물어봐야 대답을 하는 거야. 그죠? 상상을 초월하는 것만 물어봐야 대답을 하는 거야. Okay, I like to write a program on this way. So I will get this radius value from the users. Okay, that's no problem. But how do you get the value of this? I guess you can just simply use, you can go like this too. I mean, I guess it's okay, but it's there, if you use more digits, then I guess you can get to more close to an actual area. So I like to use the actual value of pi. So I may import a math library that has a value of pi. That is to get a more accurate area of the circle. So that's what they did. If you take a closer look at your slide, the first line says import math. 아마 책에도 조금 비슷한 예제 있을 거예요. Import. I just imported means when I say this at the beginning of my Python program, it says I'm gonna use a certain functions or variables that is defined by this set of code, math code. Hopefully this math source code has a value of pi, maybe not in this way. And then the rest of it is pretty much same as the previous examples. So print, do you want to proceed to a pool? So if you want to calculate the area of a circle, then enter value, yes or no. If they say yes, then get the radius, get the 반지름 from the users. And then somewhere in here, it says computing the area. 이거 뭐지? circumference가 뭐지? 지름이 아니라 원 뭐? 나 이름을 몰라요. 원주? 이거 길이? 둘레. 그래, 둘레가 낫겠다. 둘레. This is a formula to compute circumference. 이거 뭐 둘레라며. 둘레 equals to 2 times the value of pi, math.pi. Whatever defined from that math library, I can call from math.pi. Instead of saying 3.14. 2 times radius 2r 아닌가? 맞나? 맞네. Radius. Radius from the input. Very dumb example, but only thing that I wanted to show you is I can call out the values from that library. This is very helpful if you do some type of sorting. We cover many different sorting algorithm in class, right? Not many, but few. Binary, 뭐 있었어? Sequential search, some stupid looking algorithm like data cleaning. I don't think there is a library for data cleaning, but there is certainly libraries for sorting. So I don't know the name, but let's say I built a library called sort. At the beginning of the program, I'm gonna say use it. Maybe within the sort class, sort module, I can use binary search. Give a list of numbers that you wanted to search, and maybe list and the value that you're looking for. So you don't have to implement the binary search every single time that you want to use it. 이런 라이브러리들이 많아요. 그래서 sorting 알고리즘 우리 한 거 직접 짤 필요 없어요. 이런 거 찾아다가 임포트해서 저 sorting 알고리즘, sorting 라이브러리에서는 이미 binary search를 가지고 있으니까 그냥 불러다 쓰면 돼. 한 줄. If you want to implement it yourself, that probably requires maybe at least 50, 60 lines of code. One line, good. Okay, and you can reuse it over and over again. So it's always a good idea to search for a good libraries first, whatever that you want to do, and then use that functions out there. Python, again, have many different libraries available from the net. So I do recommend to use those stuff. Find it and then use it. 어떤 숙제를 줘도 아마 여러분들이 sorting을 저런 걸 짤 필요는 거의 없을 거예요. 다 있어. 찾는 게 중요한 거예요. What matters is, can you find it? Can you find what you want? Okay. 사용하는 건 그냥 임포트만 갖다 붙이면 원래 내가 짜면 20줄, 30줄이 필요한데 2줄이면 땡. 이게 훨씬 좋죠. 그리고 믿을 수도 있고 얘네가 나보다 훨씬 잘 짰을 테니까. So that's another strong point of languages like Python. Easy to import. There are a lot of references already out there to use it. C는 훨씬 많지 라이브러리가. 근데 막상 갖다 쓰려면 초반에 조금 복잡해요. 그리고 좀 깔끔하지 않은 것도 있어서 막상 쓰려면 남의 코드도 좀 쳐다봐야 되고 그런 게 있어요. 그래서 Python might be a good way to start for your programming experience. And then if you run the program, this is output like. They ask questions. If I put yes, they do this. Ask for a value somewhere around here, 2.7. This is user input, and they will probably give you the value like this. Area of a pool of a radius 2.7 is 22.90222 something. 그렇죠? These type of values is possible because that you are using the value from MathPy. Dates, for example, dates, December 31st. What if I ask you to build a loop to print out a days of the year, all the days of the year, from January 1st to December 31st? Can you write a program to do that? 1월 1일부터 1월 2일, 1월 3일, 12월 31일까지 2014. Can you write a program to do that? 어떻게 하겠어? 멍청하게 생각하면 이렇게 할 수도 있겠지? January, start from 1 to what? 12. Each day 1 to 30th. 그죠? 그죠? If you print out month, I, day, J. 이렇게 하면 어떻게 돼? What's going to be our output? I1, J1, print I1, J2, blah, blah, blah. But is this correct? 아니지. How many days in January? how many days in February? 그죠? February always change, even for the years. So if you want to compute that within your own code, it's going to be a mess. There are too many exceptions. Sometimes we have what? 364 days? 뭐 그렇게 찾나? Days all the change. So use import a date library instead. They will compute everything for you. They can even compute the lunar calendar years. 음력도. 그 되게 어려운 프로그램인데. If I ask you to do an assignment to print out the lunar calendar years, can you compute that? 할 수 있어? 그 계산하는 거 프로그램 짤 수 있어요? 상당히 어려워요. Sometimes even neighbor calendar got it wrong. 네이버 캘린더에서 음력도 가끔씩 틀려요. 잘 보면. So, why are you doing that on your own? Try to import the library. Let's say, for example, I don't know if there's a library dates. Use a library function calls from the dates. They will compute everything for you. Okay? 분명히 이렇게 하라고 하면 이렇게 해갖고 오는 사람들이 있어요. 그래서 여기서 맨날 비교하는 거야. If I is 31, 2, 3, 4 이렇게 하지. 1. If I is 1, 3, 또 뭐야? 5. 이럴 때는 go to 31. If I is 2, 4, then 30. And they have a problem with the February. Sometimes February just go for 24 days. So, 이렇게 하는 사람들 분명히 있어요. Don't do this. Use that. That is the power of this nice programs that you can do. Python. 아마 물론 마이크로소프트 C#이나 뭐 이런 그런 데도 충분히 사용할 수 있는 게 많지만 일반적으로 접근할 수 있는 건 이게 훨씬 쉬우니까. 이런 거 예제 너무너무 많아요. 근데 학생들 해갖고 오는 거 보면 안타까워요. 라이브러리 뭘 쓸지만 알면 두 줄이면 해결되는 걸 3일 내내 고민해서 30줄 짜와도 틀려요. 그렇죠? 그런 경우 많아요. Okay? So I want to just give you the ideas of using this type of libraries, much more secure ways to do this, easier way to do this. Okay? Divide and conquer, I'm going to skip it. So one of the good things about using this language is I don't know, in your other courses, they teach you how to write a function calls. function 하지? 하고 있죠? What is the good thing about the functions? What is the good thing about functions? Same idea as you can repeatedly use the same function calls, right? Also, your code looks nicer, nicely organized. So, sometimes if you want to call a same function over and over again, instead of writing down everything over and over again, just organize your code to have a separate function calls. If you have a separate function calls, you might be able to organize your program into separate files. Easier to look at it that way. So same idea, just like in your C class, but in C class, in C courses, they probably need to have header files and source files. So you need to learn the structure from the beginning. Yeah. Python even simpler. Python is much simpler. Let's say this is the same program, they're computing the size of a area of the circle or circumference of the circle. Two different functions, right? One is a size, the other one is the length of the circle. So why not make that as into separate functions? So function A, calculate area. Function B, calculate the length. Simpler. So you can organize in this way. It's quite easy to define a function in Python too. C에서 function 하면 좀 복잡죠. C++, C is a bit require more lines, and you need to define the parameters, exact type of parameters they have to take. Parameter means whatever that comes into between in this parenthesis. 그치? So first box, calculating the length, the formula that we have seen, 2 times mass pi radius. Do area, mass pi times radius square. See? Square. And print out. This is a main program. Before we had to write this extra program somewhere in here. Instead, we're going to just simply call that function. So next time we need to do that, just simply add one more line instead of adding many different lines. 여기는 C랑 다른 점이 뭐가 보여? 이렇게 보면 얼핏 이렇게 딱 펑션 보면 그건 파이썬 전체적으로 세미콜론이 없죠. 그거 참 좋아요. C는 세미콜론 맨날 빼먹어서 어디 엉뚱한 데서 삽질하고 있죠. 그죠? 여기 보면 가로 안에 파라미터가 잘 안 들어가죠. 그죠? 물론 여기도 파라미터를 넘길 수 있는데 그렇게 안 할 수 있고 조금 더 편하게 돼 있을 수도 있어요. 여기서 이제 필요한 값들은 여기서 다 주고 굳이 파라미터를 넘기지 않고 밸류별로 넘기면 훨씬 편하게. 하여튼 쉽게 짤 수 있는 하나의 툴이라고 보면 돼요. C보다는 이해하기가 훨씬 쉬울 거예요. Anyway, so different function examples and different functions. Even you can make a separate function for the main function. So I hope you do take a look at it. 뭐 일단 보기에 깔끔하잖아. 일단 되든 안 되든 깔끔한 프로그램이 값입니다. 나중에 회사 같은 거 인턴십이나 그 취직하려고 보면 가끔가다 그런 회사들이 있어요. 자기가 지금까지 짠 코드 중에 자신 있는 거 들고 와서 설명을 하는 데들 있어요. 네, IT 회사들 뭐 그런 경우도 조금 있긴 있어요. 최종 면접 이렇게 가면 발표하라고. 그러면 이렇게 딱 가져가잖아요. 그럼 딱 보면 알아요. 딱 보면 감이 딱 와요. 얘가 그래도 조금 해본 적이 있는지. 왜냐면 잘 못 짜는 사람들은 뭐 잘 짤 수도 있지만 칸도 안 맞고요. 펑션 이런 것도 없이 막 지저분해서 도저히 어디가 어딘지 알아볼 수가 없어요. 뭐 이런 이름도 이거 뭐 next radius 이렇게 잘 썼는데 여기다가 A, B 막 이렇게 써는 사람들은 허다해. 그러니까 이렇게 이쁜 포맷으로 가는 것도 연습이 필요해요. 초반에는 잘 안 돼요. 초반에 잘 안 돼. 짧은 시간에 자기를 어필할 수 있는 건 이런 식밖에 없어요. 사실 뭐 들어가서 못 짜면 욕먹지 자르진 않잖아, 그죠? 그러니까 하나의 방법이 될 수도 있습니다. 별의별 걸 다 가르쳐준다, 그죠? 근데 나 학교 다닐 땐 그런 걸 가르쳐주는 사람이 없었어요. 말은 듣는데 잘 와닿지가 않는데 조금만 있어보면 그런 것 같아요. 그러니까 자기 깔끔하게 짜는 연습도 조금씩 필요해. 깔끔하게 자르면 어떻게 하면 되냐? 깔끔하게 자르면 어떻게 하면 돼요? 수도코드는 당연히 수도코드는 프로그램이 돌게 하려면 무조건 있어야 되고 제대로 돌게 하려면 깔끔하게 자르면 어떻게 하면 되냐? 숙제를 일찍 시작하면 돼요. 막판에 한두 시간 전에 시작하면 칸 맞출 시간도 없고, 그죠? 발리블 생각할 시간도 없고 무조건 자기가 짠 수도코드가 돌아가게만 하면 오케이 해서 내는 경우가 허다해요. 시간의 여유를 갖고 짜면 조금 나아요. Okay, so functions should the few characteristics of the functions must be returning something. If they have a parameter argument list, you have to pass the argument parameters and blah blah blah. These are the examples, and I do recommend like this one. The previous example, they didn't have any things inside between. If you define a function like this, you have to give a value in this format. Previous ones, no values in between these brackets. This one does have. So this is a difference between the arguments and parameters. But those things are minors. I'm sure you can figure it out on your own. So try to compare values between these twos. And this is a parameter passing way of writing functions. You go, nice, right? Nice. They try to make that the nice looking functions. Each functions, top of each functions, they write what this function is doing, explaining one by one. This is something that I want eventually. So later, if you take a look at your code, you will probably forget after a week, even 1 week, then you can remind yourself. That's a documentation is very, very important part of a programming assignment. I would probably ask it over and over again. Put a documentation. 이거 seems to be nothing, but it's really important. It's even more important than your pseudocode. Okay. 펑션으로 이거 딱 봐도 이쁘지? 무조건 이쁘면 장땡이. 이쁘면 반은 먹고 들어가요. 코드는. 도는 건 상관없어요. 죽지만 않으면 돼. 앞에다가 이 펑션에서 하는 일, output, return values, parameters they take. nicely written. 이게 상당히 중요합니다. 버릇을 들이는 게 상당히 중요합니다. 나중에 내 장담은 다 까먹어요. 자기가 쓴 건 절대 기억 안 나요. 그럴 때를 대비해서 하는 거예요. Okay. So those are the examples that we have seen. Very simple examples. I'm just doing it every single term just to get you started. I usually don't do this. I usually don't want to do this for the Python programming introduction. I think it's elementary. I think it's not necessary for. But if I don't do this, probably none of you actually even start. So I know it was a bit boring, but I actually did it. So hopefully it's okay with you guys, and hopefully sometime this week you can start looking at the website that I show you, start practicing some of the Python code, and eventually you will be able to finish the assignment 2.1 programming exercise, that maze 1, red and maze 1. Okay, so also Python is also good for OOP. I know you guys haven't covered this concept yet. I think somewhere second year, you guys probably have a course on the Java. Third year? Sometime second year, I don't know. Things are changing. Then they have a concept, C++, Java, they have a concept of object-oriented programming. Simply put, much more organized way of doing your programming. I usually, when I explain this object-oriented program, I usually bring up the example for animals. Object-oriented programming. I usually bring up these examples. Animals. Human beings are also animals, right? We are 포유류, mammals. So, mammal. Spelling 맞나? Someone check the spellings for me. Okay. What are the common characteristics of this class? Mammals have what? Tail? Hair. Oh, 진짜? I'm not so sure. 포유류 hair? 진짜? 이건 I never took biology class. I don't know. 그럼 whale은 고래도 포유류 아니야? 걔도 털 있어요? 아 그래? Okay. I trust you then. Hair. Warm blood. 그렇죠? 피가 따뜻하다. What are the other characteristics? Giving a birth. 그렇죠? Birth. These are the few common characteristics between human beings, all the animals in the mammal class. So, let's say so I just create a object, something called class in my C programming. So this will be my parameter. So I wanted to create a other animal class. Something called what? Dog. Okay. Dog, still a mammal, right? Same characteristics. But some of the characteristics will be different from other animals. Right? So I'm gonna express it like dog is coming from a mammal. But what are the characteristics of dog? Bark. 그 생각 안 해봤는데. Okay, bark. Bark. They can make a sound. Or four leg. See? They don't stand up and what else? 또 뭐 있어? 이렇게 생물학을 안 들어가지고 아무도 모르죠. 뭐 여러 가지 뭐 있잖아. Mammals, do we have IQ? IQ, maybe IQ too? Okay. Characteristics of dog. The good thing is, because all dog is a mammal, I don't need to repeat these characters again in this class. But instead, I add a few more features. Or I change some of the characteristics as I'm doing this. Human. What is the unique characteristics of human? Yeah, human actually is same. With alcohol, yeah, it's almost same. We walk, stand up, 그죠? Two-legged. 뭐라 그러지? 직립보행, two-leg walking. You can speak. I don't think that's a. 또 뭐 있어? Reason? Reason이 뭐야? Reasoning. 오. I think dogs also can reason themselves, but we probably don't understand. Okay, better brain, reasoning. So. Again, these properties I don't have to repeat myself. What else can you do? We are extending these classes from a one class to smaller class with the unique characteristics or changing some of the characteristics of the mammals. What can you do below humans? Man and woman. So, man, woman. I'm not going to write down the difference between man and woman, but everyone knows. So, you can create a different class, something called class. Create different object. This is mammal object. I'm going to extend my mammal object, which is sharing the same set of characteristics. I can do this. I can do that. Some of the characteristics do not need to repeat itself in the code. Much better, organized way of doing coding. This is the same idea for object-oriented programming. This is good because 이건 조금 복잡한 얘기인데. So, functions of a mammal, functions of moving function. Mammals can move, breathe. So, breathe. Because dog is also mammal, we have same functions. Likewise. So in some cases, because we can just simply use a breathe function of this mammal class, so I don't need to write it at all. Because I can simply use a upper class functions, walk, and pretty much everything that mammal can do, that's what we can do too. Right? Same idea for object-oriented programming. How can you do this? It's pretty much same as examples from this will be a function, separate function. This will be a IQ, maybe this is integer IQ. Hair integer는 좀 그렇다. Boolean maybe, Boolean. 이렇게 하면 어떻게 돼? Boolean hair 하면 hair, if it's true, then there is a hair. If there's no, Boolean no. hair 맞지? 난 몰라요. Warm blood, blood type, warm. Can you create a animal of something like snake using this? 아니지. Snake is not a mammal, so this type of relationship may not be possible. In order to do this, maybe I need to create another superclass, like same as mammal. So if I'm just simply translate that into a coding in this way. This is a very strong techniques to program. 뭐 많지 뭐. 뭐가 있을까? 스타크래프트 같은데 적으로 하면 뭐 죽이고 난 적으로 안 해서 그 지렁이 같은 게 펑 터져갖고 다른 게 나오죠. 그죠? 그거 지렁이 클래스가 다른 클래스로 바뀌는 거야. 그것도 다 OOP 프로그램이에요. 스타크래프트 다 OOP 프로그램이에요. 기본적인 거 있고 내려가면 내려갈수록 코딩 수는 점점 들고 새로운 거를 추가할 수 있고 아니면 이런 관계가 없으면 휴먼 클래스에도 매번 할 때마다 여기 다 들어가야 되죠. 그럼 커지고 어려워지고 클래스 간에 파일들 간에 관계가 애매해지고. So these are the terms they describe usually the characteristics of the OOP: encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. Inheritance, I inherit the values of the mother class. Human class, inherit pretty much all the values in here. Encapsulation, whatever we are encapsulated in the same boundary of classes. Polymorphism, every time you change something, human beings, male, female, slightly change, but they still share a similar characteristics. Those are very quick example on the object-oriented programming. So I think my first object-oriented programming assignment was, I think it was asking me to build an animal farm. So they create a mammal class for me. Very simple mammal class like this. int, 뭐 저런 거, billion hair. And then they asked me to create a class like sheep, dog, horse, and I think there is a lion too. So they asked me to create a 2 object of each and put that in the same space. What's going to happen if you put lion and horse and sheep in the same space? Create an object of each. So, its programming assignment was meant to be the lion, it kills every other object. But I programmed something, no, sheep actually kills every other object too. Those type of experience can be possible too. I hopefully you get the idea of object-oriented programming. This is also very common questions when you're in the interview situations. intern, OOP 알아요? 이렇게 물어봐요. OOP가 뭐예요? 이게 object-oriented programming을 짧게 OOP라고 부르는 사람들이 많아요. OOP 해봤어요? OOP의 개념을 설명해 보세요. 이런 가짜는 질문들이 많이 나와요. 그래도 어떻게 해? 물어보는데 대답해야지. 잘 모르겠으면 이걸 떠올려요. 그렇다고 또 뭐 동물이 뭐 이렇게 하지 말고 비슷하게 개념은 아는 식으로 얘기를 하죠. 어렵냐? 어렵진 않아요. 초반에 좀 이해하기가 좀 쉽지 않아서 그렇지. 코딩이 어렵냐? 똑같아요. 코딩 똑같아요. 여기 좀 이따 나오는데. So 3 key elements of OOP: inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation. I'm sure these things will be much covered more details in your other courses. They teach you this stuff. I'm going to skip object. Python and OOP. Python language also can support the object-oriented programming. C++ is also supporting object-oriented programming. Java also can create those. C는 약간 아니에요. 정확하게는 아니라고 얘기해도 돼요. 그래서 C++. Methods, functions associated with the class. So my mammal class has a function, breathing. That's an action that I can take. Object, create an instance of a class. I create a new human object. If I create a 3 human object that's each one is an instance of the same class. 아까 얘기했지? 동물농장, 2 ships, 2 lions, 2 horses. Each is an instance. So this is the way to defining in class in the Python. Class, whatever name, and body of the class. So class mammal, integer IQ, Boolean hair, like that. This is one of the examples they provide in your textbook. We're still in calculating the area of the circle. So instead of just asking the data from the user this time, you're also getting the input from data, but you're going to create class called circle. Circle. So this is class definition of a circle. So class circle defining its class definition. Circle has a what? Things to describe a circle is radius. So this class's radius value is whatever that I get from the users. This one also has a function called as calculating the length circumference. Here, calculating the area. So new circle, create new circle. And if I have the circle, I can ask the circle, what is your area, given the radius. So it's the same program. This one take the OOP approach. 이제는 circle이라는 클래스를 딱 만들어 놓고 걔한테 물어보는 거예요. 오브젝트. 이게 처음에는 잘 이해하기가 쉽지 않은데 여기서 여기만 딱 보면 똑같아요. 한 번씩 꼭 확인해서 봐요. It's more of a natural word viewpoint. OOP is much more natural way of explaining writing a program. Recognize that in the real world, tasks are done by entity object. 그냥 이게 훨씬 더 실생활하고 가까운 표현법이죠. 그죠? Circle 있으면 도형 class 있고, circle class, rectangular class, triangular class, right? It also makes sense. So I don't need to repeat myself every time I create a new class like triangle. Do I have to define a new calculating area? Yes, maybe, because it's a triangular. But basic properties may not be changed from those the shape class that you can have. Allows the programmer to come closer to a modeling and simulating world as we can see it. Like I say, my first assignment was creating an animal farm, simulating each object, simulating the animals that I create in my program. 시뮬레이션이 뭐 별거 있는 줄 알아요? 그냥 그렇게 클래스 만들어 놓고 막 설명 안에 그 특징들 다 적어 놓고 그냥 인스턴트를 만들고 그냥 new 클래스 만들고 그걸로 이제 막 장난치는 거예요. 그게 다예요. 대신에 이제 시뮬레이션, 어려운 시뮬레이션은 이런 게 많겠지. 그죠? 이런 게 많겠죠. 표현해야 될 게 엄청 많겠죠. 이것만 해도 메모리 클래스면 우리가 지식이 없어서 그렇지 메모리에만 특화된 특징들이 얼마나 많겠어요. 그죠? So it says it's much more natural way of looking at the program OOP. Again, it's a somewhat difficult concept to take in your first year courses in programming. 사실 이해하기가 그렇게 쉬운 컨셉은 아니에요. 한번 해보면 돼요. So if you wanna get the idea, you wanted to have an idea of what OOP is, try to copy a program in the first setup slide. There was a simple calculating circle area code, and then try to copy this program. And see whether there's a difference in terms of output. Probably you don't experience the output, but way of looking at the problem probably slightly different. 그냥 짜기 싫지, OOP 짜기 싫으면 그냥 그대로 복사해서 한번 해봐요. 아마 책이니까 복사가 안 되면 그대로 한번 쳐봐요. And the rest of the slide is just try to give you some simple ideas on drawing a graph. This I will skip. I will skip. you can just simply take a look at it. This is just a simple way to show you how to draw a graph like this using a Python. It's one simple graph. Especially drawing graph and stuff, they use the idea for object-oriented. Each circle, each rectangular is an object. So they do it that way. But you go more, wait for the mouse click. So if you run this code, maybe you will see a box. If you click on that box, they change something. Maybe close the program. But similar examples is given in your processing assignment. So I guess processing is much more fun to interact with than Python. 네, 뭐 실제로 if you want to write your own program, then Python is the maybe your choice to do it. UI 같은 거 짜고 할 때. Okay. So we have looked at a few examples on the Python programs and blah, blah, blah. Simple examples on how to use it, while loops that we all been discussing in the pseudocode. Hopefully you can translate those pseudocode into a Python level languages. And why do I recommend the Python nice modules import? And you can even try for the object-oriented programming experiences. So I do recommend to use it. And I also give you the assignment too. So, and this, you can figure it out on yourself. You can figure it out on yourself. 구글에 많이 찾아보면 많이 답이 나와 있어요. Okay. So, I'm gonna finish this slide. And then I probably go back to that assignment 2.1, the one that I tried to explain last time. And hopefully you can start your programming assignment at this point. This, I think I explained most of it. It's basically try to find the path in and out of that maze that I give you. If you go into the message board, I upload this file and also the input file, the maze map too. So basically, it has all the x's like this. I will show you. And this is a starting position. There are a few conditions. The robot looking like this. Starting, the sensor is on the right side, and this is a starting looking location. And if it has a sensor, you can detect what's in front of it. Okay? There are 한숨을 하고 그래. 갑자기 힘이 쭉 빠지잖아요. Rotate 90 degrees, 그죠? 90 degrees. You can go this way, doesn't really matter. And it says advance one at a time. But you can only advance where the sensor is facing. So sensor is facing this way, you can go up. If you wanted to go down, you have to turn this way. If sensor is pointing here, then you can go this way. Only one at a time, one at a time. So you probably need to rotate a few times in order to find a path. So obviously, if this is a finished location, I need to go this way. So in order to, because this is starting location, in order to find the block that I can go to, I probably either go this way, either rotating this way or this way to go down here. So all I ask for is each move, rotate takes a $2. Moving one takes a $1. So add them up until you find the exit out of the maze. And tell me how much money that you have spent on to moving this robot. Things to be careful of. I also ask for the sequence of moves that your robot taken. So I want you to write it down in your program while you're running. We'll probably do this. In order to, there is no path. So from here, it goes down, right? Down. Down again, down. Also need to down again, down. And then what? Right. Go. Right, right. Right. So these are the sequence of actions to exit the maze. I want your program to report this and how much money that you spend to exit this maze. That's it. So read carefully on the instructions, and there are a few tips. I'm going to go over the tips today. Tip is try to look at this map as this way. Finish, start. I probably look at it this way. 1, 2. I keep track of the location of this robot by 1.1. If I'm here, 1.2. This coordinate systems. So it's going to be a two-dimensional array looking like. So if you if you start your program, first thing that you need to do is probably open up this maze file first. It's a simple text file, which means that you can read line by line. You can find out where your starting location of your robot. Is it 1.2, 2.2? And then every time you move, say I'm in XY니까 XY. Location 2, 3, X and Y. Location 2, 2, block. Location 2, 4, block. Location 3, 3, okay. Location, again, if it's going back, but location 1, 3, okay. Based on this information, you can make your choices to which one to take. Obviously, these two cannot go, this one can go. So try to take a look at it as a coordinate system. So every spot, you detect those informations. Next spot, you detect the same information by what? Rotating. Because there is only one sensor around it. So, doesn't really matter how much money that you spend. I'm not looking for the fastest robot. I don't care. Just do a random move. That's also okay with me too. So things to practice for the first time. Learn how to open up this text file. Learn how to read this, each line characters. And learn how to detect that information based on this idea. 나 같으면 I read everything, put that into array. 이거는 5 by 4, maybe. And each line, array list that we covered, we store this, I store this, I store this, I store this. And try to find not X spot in the lines and get the coordinates of an empty spot. I would do that. Or there could be many different ways. I don't care how you did it. As long as you can exit, I'm okay. 뭐 이거 하다 보면 꼼수도 많아요. 그냥 다 읽어가지고 하얀 거 그냥 뚝 따라가게. 그렇게 해도 돼. I don't care. As long as your program works, then in this level, I'm okay. 원래는 인공지능에서 나오는 숙제 비슷한 거예요. 인공지능에서는 얘가 어떻게 여기서 빨리 나오게 하는지 하는데 그것까지 하면 너무 복잡해. 안 해. 바이너리 트리 같은 거 구현하는 거에 대해서 안 해도 돼요. Okay? So I give you a little bit of hint where to begin. Open file, read file information, and get the coordinate system like that, and detect it, every single location that you're in, and make a decision based on this information that you get gather. Sometimes you don't need to go bottom here because you see that there's empty space. Your program can decide go to this location right away if you want. Okay, so things to submit is going to be a Python. This is how to run your Python program. This is your Python program, a.2.1.maze robot.py, the source code. Print out the source code. Your output, this will be your output look like. R90, rotate 90 degrees, up, down, left, right, the sequence, and money, total cost. So you need to program in this way. Also, your program need to get the input files, a2.1.maze text files. This also you can download from the website. Okay. Source code and your output files and explaining what was your difficulties, why you didn't like it, why you couldn't finish the entire assignment. Some people may not be able to finish the entire assignment. That's okay too. But submit something. So I can give you some partial mark. 아무것도 안 내고 그러지 마. 안 돌아간다고. 하는 데까지 해서 내요. 그래야 점수를 주지. 아무것도 안 내면 점수 줄 수가 있어요, 없어요? 그죠? 그리고 왜 못했는지, 왜 뭐가 힘들었는지 적어주면 돼요. 그냥 포기하고 하지 말고. I also said it here. Important, do your best. Even if you can't finish your assignment, just tell me where you finished, how much you get it done, what was the reason that you couldn't finish, what was the difficulty that you had while doing the entire assignment. Okay. Here's the URLs that I give you: Python, learnpython.org, docpython.org for tutorials. They give you very simple tutorials on the major functions that you can use in this particular example. 여기 튜토리얼 가면 파일 여는 법부터 다 가르쳐줘요. 그대로 복사해 가져오면 돼요. 찾기만 하면 돼요. Ask Google. Do not send me an email first. Talk to each other. 그죠? 무조건 막히면, 저번에도 얘기했죠. 파이썬이 안 깔려요. 이런 질문을 이메일로 나한테 보내면 당연히 스팸으로 갑니다. 그죠? 당연히 스팸으로 갑니다. 서로들 좀 물어보고 서로 대화하면서 해도 상관없어요. 코드 바이 라인으로 베끼지만 않으면 돼. 그죠? Okay. So start advanced. And also you can download this maze text file. It's also on the 한양인 too. So have fun and we'll see. Okay, any questions for today? 질문. We call out the attendance now.